Let me ask you something uncomfortable. That can of tuna in your pantry right now, the one you've bought 100 times, the trusted brand with the friendly logo you've reached for since you were a kid. What if I told you the company that made it was caught red-handed reaching into your wallet and taking money that wasn't theirs? Not as a conspiracy theory, as a fact. In a federal courtroom, with a guilty plea and a CEO who went to prison. Here's the thing that should bother you. You've been standing in that grocery aisle for years, grabbing the same cans on autopilot, trusting names you assumed were looking out for you. And a lot of those names have been quietly failing you. On the price you pay, on what's actually inside the can, on where the fish came from, and even on whether it was safe to eat at all. Today, I'm going to walk you through 9 canned tuna brands you'll want to think twice about before you toss them in your cart. And I'm counting them down from number 9 all the way to number 1. And number 1 is the brand whose story is so bad it involves a federal prison sentence and a lawsuit alleging something far darker than overcharging. But stick with me all the way to the end, because after the 9, I'm going to reveal the only 2 brands that actually earn your money. The 2 that quietly do everything right while the giants cut corners. Number 3 is going to make you look at that premium can in your cabinet completely differently. Let's get into it. Number 9. Target store brand tuna. Let's start with the ones hiding in plain sight. The store brands. That cheap house label tuna at Target feels like a smart, thrifty choice. Same fish, lower price, right? Not so fast. When Greenpeace put together its canned tuna scorecard, ranking brands on how sustainably and ethically the fish is caught, the big retail store brands, including Target, landed among the failing grades. The problem isn't the price. It's that with a lot of these generic labels, you have almost no way of knowing how the tuna was caught or where it came from. No clear catch method on the can. No traceability. You're buying a mystery, and the low price is doing a very good job of keeping you from asking questions. Now, I'll be fair here. The Tuna Industries Trade Group disputes Greenpeace's scoring and calls it subjective. So take it as one strong signal, not gospel. But when a brand won't even tell you how your fish was caught, that silence tells you something. And it leads straight into number 8, where the same silence gets a lot louder. Number 8. Kroger's store brand tuna. Same story, different logo. Kroger is one of the biggest grocery names in the country, which means an enormous amount of house brand tuna moves through those stores every single day. And when the sustainability scorecards came out, Kroger's store brand tuna also received a failing grade. Here's why this matters more than it sounds. When a retailer this massive fails, it's not a small mistake, it's a signal about the entire supply chain feeding those cans. Vague sourcing, little transparency about the fishing methods, the kind of practices that environmental groups have flagged for years as tied to overfishing and to catching everything else that gets swept up in those giant nets. Sharks, turtles, whatever's unlucky enough to be nearby. You're not just buying tuna. You might be buying the fallout. But if you think a store brand is bad, wait until you see what the single biggest seller of tuna in America has been accused of. That's number 7. Number 7. Walmart's Great Value Tuna. Walmart sells an absolutely staggering amount of tuna. By some estimates, close to 1 out of every 4 cans bought in the entire country. So when the world's largest retailer gets called out, it affects more families than any other name on this list. Greenpeace didn't mince words about the Great Value brand. It flagged Walmart's store brand tuna as a poor choice for anyone who cares about sustainability, pointing to destructive fishing methods and a lack of meaningful action to clean up its supply chain. And in a separate report focused on human rights in the tuna industry, the majority of major US retailers, Walmart among them, received failing grades on labor and sourcing practices. The sheer scale is the problem. When you're moving that much product at that lower price, something upstream is getting squeezed, the ocean, the workers, or both. That low price on the shelf has a cost. It's just not showing up on your receipt. Now, number 6 is where this gets personal, because it's not just about sourcing anymore. It's about what one company refused to tell anyone. Number 6. H-E-B's store brand tuna. If you're in Texas, you know H-E-B. It's a beloved regional chain. But loved doesn't mean flawless. On the sustainability scorecards, HEB's own tuna label came up short, with reviewers noting the cans provided almost no information about the tuna inside and criticizing the company's lack of transparency about where its fish came from. And here's the part that should raise an eyebrow. When a company sells you a food product but won't clearly tell you the species, the catch method, or the origin, you have to ask what there is to hide. That's not me being dramatic. That's just the reasonable question any shopper should ask when the label goes quiet. And it gets worse for HEB, because their name also shows up in number 5, in a recall that had nothing to do with sustainability and everything to do with whether the can could actually make you sick. Number 5. Van Camp's tuna. Now we shift from how the fish was caught to whether the can itself is safe, and this is where it stops being about ethics and starts being about your health. In early 2025, the company Tri-Union Seafoods issued a voluntary recall on a batch of canned tuna sold under several labels, including Van Camp's. The reason? A supplier warned that the easy open pull tab lid on certain cans had a manufacturing defect that could compromise the seal over time, causing the can to leak. Or worse, allow contamination with Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria behind botulism, a potentially fatal form of food poisoning. Let that sink in. Botulism is one of the most dangerous foodborne illnesses there is. And the scary detail is that Consumer Reports warned you couldn't tell by looking. The recalled tuna could smell fine and look fine and still be dangerous. Now, to be fair, no illnesses were reported and the recall was precautionary. But a defect that can let botulism into a sealed can is exactly the kind of thing you want to know about. And Van Camp's wasn't the only brand caught in that recall. Number 4 was 2, and it's one that markets itself as the fancy premium option. Number 4. Genova tuna. Genova positions itself as the upscale Italian-style tuna. The one in the nicer packaging, often packed in olive oil, that you reach for when you want to feel like you're treating yourself. The premium price makes you assume premium safety. But Genova is made by that same company, Tri-Union Seafoods. And Genova cans were right at the centre of that 2025 botulism recall, including 5-ounce cans sold at major retailers across 10 states and 7-ounce cans sold at Costco in Florida and Georgia. In fact, the story didn't fully end in 2025. In early 2026, the company had to warn again that some of the quarantined, recalled product had been accidentally shipped back out to a limited number of stores. So the premium can wasn't immune. It was in the thick of it. Paying more got you nicer branding, not necessarily a safer seal. And that same parent company connects directly to number 3, one of the 3 giants that got caught doing something that cost every tuna shopper in America real money. Number 3. Chicken of the Sea. Here's where we get to the big 3, the household names that dominate roughly 80% of the tuna sold in this country. And the first one, Chicken of the Sea, was part of one of the most brazen consumer rip-offs in recent memory. Between 2011 and 2015, the 3 largest canned tuna companies, Starkist, Bumblebee, and Chicken of the Sea, were accused of colluding to fix the price of canned tuna, artificially keeping prices high so you paid more at the register than you should have. Chicken of the Sea and its parent company came forward as the whistleblower and cooperated with federal investigators, which is why it avoided criminal charges. Think about what that means. They were in the room for the scheme, and their reward for confessing was dodging prosecution. On top of that, Chicken of the Sea has repeatedly landed among the failing brands on sustainability scorecards, and its parent company is the same Tri-Union operation behind the botulism recall we just covered. Price fixing, sustainability failures, and a recall. That's a lot of red flags for one brand. But it's still not the worst. Number 2 pleaded guilty. Number 2. Starkist. You know Starkist. Charlie the tuna. The mascot you grew up with. And Starkist didn't just get accused in that price-fixing scandal. It agreed to plead guilty to price fixing as part of the federal investigation and faced a maximum fine of up to $100 million. The friendly cartoon fish was fronting a company that admitted in federal court to helping rig what you paid. And it doesn't stop at your wallet. On the environmental side, Starkist has been ranked dead last among tuna brands for sustainability, singled out for its reliance on destructive fishing methods and its refusal to be transparent about where its tuna comes from. And when it comes to what's inside the can, remember the mercury issue. Consumer Reports found that one of Starkist's albacore products tested so high in mercury that they said it shouldn't be eaten at all. Now, one honest caveat, because I want you to trust me. That same testing found Starkist's chunk-light tuna was actually among the lower mercury options. The mercury problem is mostly an albacore problem across the whole industry. But between a guilty plea and the worst sustainability rank on the board, Starkist earns its spot. And yet, it's still not number one, because number one involves a prison sentence and an allegation that's genuinely disturbing. Number 1. Bumblebee. Here it is. The one that ties everything together and best explains just how far some of these companies were willing to go. Bumblebee, the third of the big three, and the worst offender on this list. Start with the price fixing. Bumblebee didn't just settle. It pleaded guilty to criminal charges for price fixing and paid a $25 million fine. And it went further than the company. Bumblebee's former CEO was found guilty by a jury for his leading role in the conspiracy and was sentenced to 40 months in federal prison, plus a $100,000 fine. A tuna executive went to prison for rigging the price of the can in your pantry. Read that twice. And then it gets darker. In 2025, a group of fishers filed a lawsuit against Bumblebee under a federal anti-trafficking law, alleging they experienced human trafficking and forced labor while catching tuna that was sold by Bumblebee in the US. Now, and this matters, those are allegations in a lawsuit that still has to play out in court, not proven facts. But combined with everything else, and with the fact that Bumblebee is owned by one of the world's largest tuna traders operating in an industry repeatedly flagged for labor abuses on the high seas, it paints a picture no friendly logo can cover up. Price fixing. A jailed CEO. A forced labor lawsuit. Bottom-tier sustainability. That's the whole story of why this brand sits at number 1 on a list you do not want to top. So, which 2 brands actually deserve your money? Here's the good news, because I promised you 2 brands worth buying, and they exist. While the giants were cutting corners, 2 smaller companies quietly did the opposite. The first is Wild Planet. It has repeatedly earned the top spot on Greenpeace's sustainability ranking because all of its tuna is caught by pole and line or troll methods, the kind that spare the sharks, turtles and seabirds that big nets sweep up. And it publishes real information so you actually know what you're buying. On mercury, Consumer Reports testing found its levels relatively low too. It costs a little more. It's worth it. The second is American Tuna. It ranked right near the very top of that same sustainability list. A San Diego company started by a handful of pole and line fishing families, with tuna that's traceable from sea to can and clearly labelled. This is what the tuna aisle is supposed to look like. Caught responsibly, labelled honestly, priced fairly for what it actually is. And one quick bonus tip, since I know some of you worry most about mercury. If you're pregnant, feeding young kids, or just want to play it safe, remember the golden rule that cuts across every brand. Skipjack and light tuna carry far less mercury than albacore, which has about 3 times more on average. And Consumer Reports has advised that pregnant people may be best off avoiding tuna altogether, because mercury can spike unpredictably from one can to the next. When in doubt, choose light over albacore, and choose the brands that tell you the truth about their fish. So there's the whole picture. The comfortable, familiar names you grew up trusting have, in too many cases, been caught fixing prices, failing the oceans, recalling unsafe cans, or worse. And the 2 brands actually worth your money are the ones you've probably never grabbed on autopilot. And the wild part, this is just what's made it into courtrooms and recall notices so far. There's a whole world of what happens on those fishing boats that never makes the news. So here's what I want you to do. Next time you're in that aisle, flip the can over. Look for the catch method. Look for the words pole and line. And if a brand won't tell you how or where its tuna was caught, Put it back. Reach for the ones that earned it instead. And that's it from this video. If this opened your eyes, do me a favor. Like, share, and subscribe so the next person shopping that aisle knows the truth too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.